Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we are doing another conglomerate video. And this is going to be a big middle finger to the YouTube algorithm because this is going to take a long time. So for those of you complaining about one of the short videos I uploaded the other day that was only 12 minutes, I hope you've got your phone charged in because this is going to drain the battery. So I've done two of these already. I did one on the house of L'Oreal, and I did one on the house of Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder is clearly the better run house, hands down, out of the two. This is the other big conglomerate. This is the third in the group, and this is LVMH. They own brands like Guerlain, Dior, Loewe, Givenchy, Kenzo, Marc Jacobs, Tiffany. They just bought Tiffany actually in 2019, but the fragrance I'm going to show you is a discontinued one, but I have it, so I figured I'd show you. And Acqua di Parma, and they have a controlling stake in Fendi since 2001. So let's get on with this. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to show you what I have. Some of these you've seen in other videos. Some of them I have not shown before because we haven't really touched on many of the Givenchys, Kenzos, Loewe's. So again, this is going to be a high-level overview. Eventually, I plan on doing full reviews on all of these, but you know, if you want me to prioritize any of them, please do let me know. So let's get on with it because it's going to be a long video. The first one, we're going to start with the house of Fendi, which I think that they are a majority stakeholder in this house since 2001. I'm not 100% sure if they have a big hand in the fragrances because I didn't see Fendi on the list, but it does say that they have a majority stake in Fendi. So they're basically owners. But the first one is Fendi Womo. This is my favorite Fendi fragrance. It came out in the late 80s, 1988. And this is an oily leather, but done in an Italian style. Beautiful, bright. But my kind of leather, I love wearing these kind of fragrances. By the way, mine is a, I don't know if you can see that. It's distributed by SPA Firenze. So I know there's Bethco. I haven't smelled Bethco. There's also another distributor. Haven't smelled anything but the SPA Firenze. So if you want to trust my nose, try to hunt down this formulation. But I hear the Bethco is also quite good, but don't take my word for it. Okay, next is a Fendi I have not shown you guys yet. It is Fan de Fendi. And this came out, I want to say, a decade ago or so. It was put out by a trio of perfumers. It was put out in 2012, so exactly a decade ago. Benoit Lapauza, Delphine Lebeau, and the famous Francois Demachy, who is now sitting in retirement somewhere. But this is a very modern leather. It is a leather, but it's a fresh take on a leather. So, you know, if you wanted to wear a leather, let's say in the summertime, this would be a great leather to wear in the summer as an all year round fragrance. Fan de Fendi. Now, this spawned a flanker as well called Fan de Fendi Assoluto. And you can see the juice is a little bit darker than the original. I like the old school built-in sprayer, by the way. Very 1980s, my kind of touch. And you've got the Fendi F and whatever their ridiculous logo is. But the only way to tell is to actually look on the bottom where it says Assoluto right here. You'll have to take my word for it. But if you just looked at these two here, you would never be able to tell other than if you really knew the juice color, you know, one versus the other. You have to look at the bottom of the bottle. So that's a mistake, I think, on their part. This is a little bit darker. So I mentioned the first one is fresh. Fan de Fendi Assoluto is a little bit heavier on the amber, more of a winter fragrance instead of a all year round like Fan de Fendi Pour Homme. This was launched in 2014, by the way, so 2 years later, and this adds the note of oud and a Papanax. So, interesting. I enjoy wearing these, but you know me, I like my old school stuff better, so Fendi Womo from the late 80s is my choice. Now, onto the house of Guerlain. I'm going to try to go through these a little bit fast because otherwise this would be a 6-hour video if I talked about each and every one. But again, I do plan on doing full reviews on all of them. This took me forever to pull all these out, so I hope you appreciate this. The first is Samsara Eau De Parfum. This is a vintage with the gold cap. Twists around and bam, you got your spray. And then if you want to throw it in the bag and close it, you twist it back and it's shut. It can't spray now. This is back when Guerlain had 5-digit batch codes, so you know it's a vintage. And this is one of the best sandalwood fragrances ever created. Real Mysore sandalwood was used originally. It was overdosed at 30%. And this was created by one of my favorite perfumers of all time, Jean-Paul Guerlain. Now, I struggle with this fragrance sometimes. This is a female-targeted fragrance, obviously. But the ylang ylang and the jasmine in this does get a little bit headachy on me from time to time. But I love this fragrance. And if I ever do a top sandalwood list, this would definitely be on it. So that is Samsara. Next, and these are not in order, by the way. I just grabbed them. Next is Vintage Val de Nuit. And Val de Nuit is one of the all-time great fragrances from Guerlain. I don't have a propeller bottle. I wish I did. This was the EDT. I prefer the EDT because it's a little bit more bright. It's not as powdery as the EDP. It's not as heavy. It's a little bit more green. It's a little easier for a man to wear. This is a vintage. This is a vintage bottle. They don't make this bottle anymore. This is a little 30 ml. But now it comes in the bottles that look like this if you want the EDT with the new Guerlain label. So Val de Nuit, one of the all-time greats. If you like green fragrances, if you like old school fragrances, so good. There's a beautiful note of narcissus in here. It's a little bit spicy. There's green galbanum. Oh, it's so good. Beautiful iris note in here too, but I think it's toned down a little bit compared to the EDP. So that's Val de Nuit. Next is one of my favorite Fujia fragrances to wear. And if I was going to make a Fujia all-time great list, this would definitely be on there. This is Mouchoir de Monsieur. This came out in 1904. So we're talking way, way back. And I think this is either discontinued or only found at Guerlain's boutique in France now. This is put out by Jacques Guerlain. It's a riff on Jicky, which is the next fragrance here. Jicky is the first modern fragrance to use modern materials. And it does have that halitosis stinky breath accord to me, and that's why I prefer Mouchoir de Monsieur. I think it tones that down a little bit. It also makes it a little bit more masculine. This was a feminine target fragrance that came out in the 1800s, I can't remember, 1888 I think, or something like that. But this is the Eau De Parfum, and it comes with this beautiful cap. I'm just kidding, but it's a tester. So anyways, it is, this is kind of a take on this, you could say. Jacques Guerlain created this for one of his best mans in a wedding, because men were wearing Jicky back then, even though this was a feminine targeted fragrances, and this is a proper Fujia fragrance. So, Mouchoir de Monsieur and Jicky. Next is going to be a fragrance that is Eugene's favorite fragrance, but I struggle with. This is one I feel like I need to wear a little bit more. It's just so powdery and floral on me. It's just not, I appreciate the fragrance, but I get a ton of violet in this, and it's L'Heure Bleue. Now, as you can see, this is a refill bottle. There you go. You can kind of see L'Heure Bleue there. This is a refill bottle, and again, I like to make my dollar stretch as much as I can, especially when you're buying hundreds of fragrances. And I have worn this before. My wife gave me a little bit of a weird look, but if you want to try one of the best iris floral fragrances, you have to try L'Oewe Blue, just experience it and understand fragrance history. Even though I'd rather be wearing Antaeus and Koros and Leonard Pour Homme and Van Cleef and Arpels Pour Homme, L'Oewe Blue is definitely one that must be experienced. Even though it's for women, a guy can easily wear this. And I do have the Eau De Parfum. This was put out by Jacques Guerlain in 1912, by the way. I wonder if I would be more likely to wear it if I had the EDT, but I don't. So next is a fragrance that I actually really like, and I love wearing this in the summer. We get 9 months of summer here in Texas. I can wear this all the time. It's a citrus aromatic, but it has this earthy mossiness underneath. It's a chiffre. I actually could have included it in my chiffre video that I did yesterday, but I didn't. It is Guerlain's Coriolan, and this came out by Jean-Paul Guerlain in 1998, the last mass-marketed masculine that LVMH allowed him to produce, basically. Let me shut these. I don't know why I don't just shut these from the beginning every time now. So beautiful gun flask, flacon. It opens up like this. Just one of the most gorgeous bottles. You don't see bottles like this anymore. And this wasn't hundreds of years ago. This was only in the late 90s. But this is fresh, but it's a little bit dirty. Apparently the rumor is he was working on this at the same time he was working on Derby, which is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And I actually love this. I don't understand why it doesn't get more hype. It's still readily available at good prices, especially for a vintage. So bravo, Jean-Paul Guerlain here with Coriolan. Next is probably the greatest chiffre of all time, and it is Mitsouku. This is the Eau De Parfum. I love this fragrance. Masculine, feminine targeted when it was released, but because of the mossiness and earthiness and how chiffres have kind of done that gender bender thing, I think this is actually masculine now. Believe it or not. It's not as feminine as it was the first time I smelled it years ago. You know, I thought this was very feminine. Now that my nose has gotten on much more fragrances, I don't think this is as feminine as it once was. This came out in 1919. One of Jacques Guerlain's greatest creations, in my opinion. And next is going to be, we're going to jump to a modern, release, which is L'Homme Idéal. And this is Terry Wasser's baby. This has a beautiful almond note with vanilla, a little wisp of incense, and this cherry. Oh, it's so good for a designer. I mean, this is what I would tell someone who's just starting out to wear if you want a designer fragrance. And this is the older bottle where it has the gray all the way down the side. Now it's clear, so that's a way you can tell if you want an older bottle. You can look for it by looking at the sides of the bottle. Very nice for a designer. My favorite flanker, though, there's a bunch of flankers. There's an Intense, there's a cologne or something, but the only one I found worthwhile was this. L'Homme Idéal Extrême, which in LVMH's infinite wisdom, they did not release this. They did not release this in the United States, and I have no clue why. This is the best of the bunch, and they only released it in Europe. So go figure. But if you can get your hands on this, this is awesome. It amps up that tobacco note, which I love. It really amps up the tobacco. Wasser does tobacco beautifully. I really think he should do a tobacco-dominant fragrance. Oh, it's so good for a designer. You know, this is top-notch quality. This is what Guerlain is known for. They don't make bad fragrances. I mean, even in their lower price designer range, this is a quality fragrance. And then we are going to jump to a fragrance that is widely considered one of the greatest fragrances of all time, Jacques Guerlain's baby, and the first Oriental, and this is Shalimar. This is the current Eau De Parfum. This is the vintage Parfum de Toilette, which I prefer. It's a little dirty on the bottom of the bottle, but you get the picture here. They used to call Eau de Parfum in the 1980s Parfum de Toilette. So if you ever get a Parfum de Toilette, Rochas does that. My Rochas Femme is a Parfum de Toilette. You know it's a vintage formula because they stopped using the term Parfum de Toilette in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So Shalimar, dirty vanilla. Again, feminine, targeted when it was released. But to me, this is so masculine. Beautiful leather. There's this balsamic feel to it. It's even a little bit animalic. This is more animalic. That's why I prefer this one. It's a little bit dirtier, and I like that. But this is a modern formula, and I did not pay very much money for this current Eau de Parfum, and it is so good. Even the modern stuff. I mean, Wasser keeps their formula in tip-top shape with the classics, so you have to hand it to them there. And then we're gonna go on to one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And this is Guerlain's Heritage. I have a backup bottle of this. This is one of my favorite masculine fragrances ever. I think Jean-Paul Guerlain's best masculine fragrance even, I will say. And it's because it ties everything together. It's a heritage of the Guerlain brand. You can sense Jicky. You know, you can sense Habi Rouge, which is coming up. And then it also does this trick where not only does it take from fragrances of the past, but it harkens to fragrances of the future. L'Instinct de Guerlain, the patchouli in that, there's this rock star patchouli note in this that you will smell in L'Instinct de Guerlain. So it's this bridge between the past and the future, and it's a pendulum. The bottle is like one of those pendulums that will go forever. So, which is very apropos for what the fragrance is. And if you can find this gold top vintage with the 5-digit batch code, this is what you want. I feel so at home wearing this. I mean, that's the only way to put it. Literally, if I could create one masculine fragrance, if you said, Ramsey, you get to take credit for one masculine fragrance, pick one, I would pick this. This is my baby. I feel very at home with this. That's Heritage. And then a modern masculine by Wasser is Guerlain Homme. And this is just basically mojito in a bottle. This is also a vintage bottle. They don't make this squatty bottle anymore. They've reformulated it and put it into these, you know, regular Listerine bottles, if you will, that look like this. But Guerlain Homme Intense, by the way, not just Guerlain Homme, but Guerlain Homme Eau de Parfum Intense, because I think there is a Guerlain Homme. And this is basically mojito in a bottle. It's so fresh and invigorating when it's hot, and you used to be able to get this for 20 or 30 bucks. Now I think this this is an 80 milliliter bottle. I think it's selling for well over $100 now. But it's a great fragrance. I mean, I wouldn't say don't pay it because it's worth it. Is it worth paying more for a vintage? Probably not. Guerlain keeps their formulas in tip-top shape, but I'm glad to have this. Beautiful, beautiful presentation. So that's Guerlain Homme. And then we move on to one of the greatest fragrances of all time. And I actually did bring out both bottles. This is not a modern formulation. It's a couple reformulations old, but it's Habi Rouge. You can tell by the silver cap. And then this is the vintage, and you can tell by the packaging here versus here, the sticker. And this is a 5-digit batch code. Whoops. Come on, Ramsey. Get your head straight. This is a 5-digit batch. You can't even see it. I flipped it upside down. I'm terrible at this. So this is the EDT. As you will see, I have both EDTs. I prefer the EDT. I don't like the EDP. It's not that I don't like it. It's just not Avi Rouge to me. And this is supposedly Jean-Paul Guerlain's take on Shalimar for men, masculine. There's a beautiful leather that appears in the base of Habi Rouge. And And it is a little bit powdery, but this is an all year round fragrance to me. I wore this on Christmas. This was my Christmas Day scent this year. And in fact, well, it was 80 degrees here in Texas in Christmas, so it wasn't really cold, but it does smell beautiful in the cold to me as well. So Avi Rouge, one of the best masculines of all time. Heritage, I would put a little bit higher because it's a little bit more to my taste. I hate saying that because they're two of my favorite masculines, but this and Avi Rouge, these two are tip-top masculines. If you've never smelled them and you want to smell fine French perfumery in its greatest form, check those two out, Heritage and Avi Rouge. Okay, next is a flanker of Avi Rouge, and it's called Avi Rouge Dress Code. And this fragrance first hit the scene in 2015, and every year the plan was that they were going to do a different bottle. So if you look on Fragrantica, you'll see Habi Rouge Dress Code 2015, 2016, 2017. They each have their own version, their own file, if you will. But don't pay up for the 2015. If all you can get is the 2017 or 2018, the only thing that's different is the bottle. The fragrance is exactly the same. This is one of the few sweet fragrances that I really can stand. It reminds me a little bit of Eau Sauvage Parfum. I don't know why, because they don't smell the same, but something in them, you know, the way that they're created just reminds me of each other. But I always say I hate, you know, bubblegum and pralines and hazelnut and all that stuff in modern masculines. This does have a praline note, and I actually like it, but it's probably the only one you're gonna find. I like my old school stuff better, but if you want to smell modern, especially for the cold, Habi Rouge Dress Code is definitely one to get. Discontinued, getting harder to find, but scoop it up while you can. Next is one of the greatest masculines of all time, and it is Guerlain Vetiver. Also very good in its current formulation. This is a vintage frosted bottle, ribbed for your pleasure. And this has a beautiful tobacco note in here as well. Gorgeous, realistic tobacco that comes in the base. It's very masculine. You know, it's like it reminds me actually as it starts to dry. The beginning is very green, fresh cut grass green. But then as it starts to dry, it starts to get a little bit more earthy, and it brings in this tobacco. And, you know, my father has a family friend that always used to work with his hands. He was very handy. He had a shop, you know, if you needed something fixed, he was the guy to take it to, kind of thing. And he had this soap that would cut right through the grease, and he always had greasy hands when he was working. And that's what the tobacco and earthiness in the base remind me of. It reminds me of a man in the 50s, 60s, 70s that was a working man that knew how to fix their own cars and tractors and all that good stuff. So even though this is not my favorite, I prefer Heritage or Habi Rouge, I can really appreciate the beauty in this. So bravo, Jean-Paul Guerlain. And then we're going to move on to one of the Absolutes d'Orient, which is one of the most beautiful rose and the rose and ambergris in this is so good. And it's Encens Mythique, very contemplative fragrance. Rich Mitch and Galen basically say that this is like standing at the edge of the ocean and just staring out into infinity, watching the waves crash in. I totally get that. It is ambery, but it's fresh. You know, it's rose, but it's sparkly. It's clean, but it's earthy, and it's just it's so much wrapped into one. Such a great fragrance. I have a decant of one I didn't grab called Ombre Eternal, which I actually like just as much as this. I would say they're tied for you know, me liking the fragrance. Actually, I might even like Ombre Eternal just a little bit more. I wish I had a decant of this and a full bottle of Ombre Eternal, but either way, they're both fantastic. And then we're going to move on to another one of my favorite masculines from Guerlain. This is L'Instant de Guerlain. This is the black rimmed bottle, which is discontinued and going for big money. Don't pay big money for this like I did. This is beautiful patchouli, one of the most beautiful patchoulis I've ever smelled, along with this amazing cacao note. Beatrice Piquet was the perfumer here. Unfortunately, she passed away. She's no longer with us. But this creation is just absolutely beautiful. And there's been many formulations. There's another one where they take the black rimmed away. It still says Eau Extreme on it. And then they put it in the Listerine bottle. And so, you know, I say try the new formulation out. It may not be as beast mode, but it's not worth paying 10, 20, 30 times the price to get the vintage. But it's, you know, it's much richer, much smokier. It has a beautiful star anise too over the EDT. I prefer the Eau Extreme over the EDT. And a lovely tea note. This is just so refined. You know, in the winter, I can't think of anything else that, you know, you put this on and you just feel ultra chic. You know, somebody that smells this on you is going to know you have amazing taste. So L'Instant Guerlain, Eau Extreme. And then, speaking of the all-time great masculines from Guerlain, how could you forget Derby? And I've said this before, I'll say it again, one of the best masculine chiffres of all time. It's so good. It's mossy, it's leathery, it's dry. You know, this is inspired by Jean-Paul Guerlain's love of horses, apparently, I thought. But then I heard in one of the streams that the working name for this was called Centurion. And if you look at the original eagle bottle, apparently it was made to look like a Roman centurion's breastplate if they were going to battle. And I totally see that if you look at the eagle bottle now. And if you pull it up, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about, the vintage bottle. So anyways, I don't know what the story on this fragrance is. All I know is that this is a boss fragrance. If you're going to sit in a boardroom with important, powerful people, this is what I would wear. Okay, now, one of my few Tonka fragrances that I have, and the note of Tonka, I don't know. I struggle with this fragrance, to be quite honest with you. It's sweet, it's syrupy. There is a tobacco note in here and an almond note, so it is nuanced, but it's not my thing. I keep it because I heard Eugene say that this is the closest thing to the Guerlain DNA. This is the heart of the brand. How can you sell the heart of the brand? It's Tonka Imperial. Again, I think I would like this on my wife more than me, but I would like to smell it more than wear it, is what I mean. But this bottle is discontinued. They then put it in the new bottles, which I don't have any of those bottles because they're like $400 or some outrageous number now for those new bottles. But Tonka Imperial, I actually like these bottles better. I think they're very classy. They've got Guerlain down at the bottom. You know, they've got the gold plate on the side. They got rid of that ridiculous bulb sprayer that would evaporate people's juice. They put an actual sprayer on here. It's not one you can take off. It's just on there now. So they finally fixed the bottle. They had a lot of problems with the older versions, and then they discontinued it, of course. So that's Guerlain and their bottle escapades in a nutshell. And then one of my favorite Guerlains just to wear, maybe not necessarily the best fragrance Terry Vassar made in his time at Guerlain, but one of my favorite just in terms of wearing it, just the enjoyment of wearing it. I love this fragrance, and I think this is a leather, not an oud. It says oud on Fragrantica. It says there's oud in here. I don't get oud. Don't sue me, Guerlain. I'm not claiming you're not using real oud. If you are, hats off to you, but I just don't get it. This is Songe d'un Bois de Tête. And this is a Middle Eastern style fragrance. Again, beautiful bottle. Look at the bottle. It's got the Guerlain bees hidden in between those, you know, shimmering gold bits on the bottle. Just gorgeous. And this is also part of the Absolutes d'Orient. They discontinued this bottle. They renamed it Bois Mysterio and put it in this bottle. So if you like this fragrance, just because this is discontinued, don't pay big money for this. Just get the new one in the Bois Mysterio. Apparently it's the same. I've never compared them, but I hear that it's very good reform. And so one of my favorites to wear, I love wearing this fragrance, even though I don't think it's the most artistic or best made. It's just personally, I love wearing it. And then I'm going to show you a little decant of a fragrance called Metallica. It had to be renamed to Metallice or something because Metallica actually sued Guerlain over this. But this is one of the most beautiful vanilla floral fragrances I think I've ever smelled. It is beautiful. Again, not my taste, not my style, but I'm so glad to just be able to smell this and have this and wear it occasionally. It came out 22 years ago at the turn of the century. One of Jean-Paul Guerlain's last works. Beautiful Guerlain. No one does vanilla like Guerlain. I mean, they have the vanilla market cornered, if you know what I mean. And thank you, Moudessir, for this, by the way. If you don't know who Moudessir is, you can check him out on Base Notes. He's one of my trusted buyers that I will buy decants and bottles off of from time to time, and very trustworthy. His reviews are out. The reviews of him on Base Notes go back like 15 years. It's unbelievable. But anyways, just give him a quick shout out. But if you love vanilla and you can find this, I think I saw a B bottle of this going for over $1,000 on eBay. Don't pay $1,000 for this, please. It's not worth it. Trust me. But if you can get a little decant at a reasonable price, very, very interesting vanilla floral take with a grapefruit orange type top. Interesting stuff. And then we're going to move on to my last Guerlain fragrance, which I actually did not get a chance to show you guys in my Guerlain video because I forgot it. And because it was in this box all by itself. This is basically Lui, which was a composition created by Delphine Jelk and Thierry Vasseur together in 2017. Probably one of the better new fragrances, although I hate the bottle. The bottle looks cool. I mean, it just the way that it looks, it's a neat little bottle. It only comes in a 50 ml. They discontinued this, renamed it, put it in another bottle, called it a different name. I forgot what it was called. And now they're charging like $280, whereas this was like, I don't know, 50 bucks or something I paid for this. I don't know. Very interesting clove fragrance with vanilla and smoke. There's pear in the top. There's benzoin. Probably just on compositions, one of the best newer Guerlains of the last, 5, 6, 7 years, I would say. But if you can still find this at a good price, scoop it up. But I think everyone that knows now it's discontinued scooped it up at a better price before the price went up by 5 times. I have no idea what LVMH is doing with the Guerlain line. I really don't know where they think this is going to end because people just aren't going to pay $500 for a bottle of Guerlain fragrance. I just don't see it happening, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, they can get those Roja clients coming their way. Okay, next, we're going to move on to the next brand, which I said LVMH bought this brand in 2019. I don't know how much they paid, but I don't think it was cheap. And this is a fragrance called Tiffany for Men, and this is supposed to look like a belt buckle of a man. So you can see the belt buckle right here is the idea. Cool little bottle. And it was created by a master perfumer, who you may know, Jacques Polge. The Chanel guy created this. And apparently he did it with Francois Demachy too. Francois Demachy is not listed in Fragrantica, but I think it was a collaboration between those two. I read that once somewhere. I could be wrong. This came out in 1989. And if you like fragrances like Chanel Pour Monsieur, if you like fragrances like Roja's Scandal, for example, if you like fragrances like New York Intense, Bois de Portugal, those kind of fragrances, this is right up your alley. Which out of all of those listed, Bois de Portugal is my favorite to wear. It's a little bit beefier. I like it more. The lavender's a little bit more amped up in that. But this is a citrus fragrance with kind of like this warm, spicier base. It's beefier than Pour Monsieur. So I actually prefer wearing this. And glad to have a bottle because, again, it's discontinued. It is a cologne concentration, but it does last. For the hot days, Tiffany for men. And then the next brand that LVMH owns, and thank God I only have one bottle in this brand, or this would go on for a year. This is Acqua di Parma Colonia Intensa. And Colonia Intensa is a riff on the Acqua di Parma Colonia series, which is a citrus fragrance that came out, I think, 100 years ago or something. And this flanker came out in 2007 by Alberto Morias and Francois Demachy. So this was also a joint collaboration between the two. And this is definitely a summer hot weather fragrance. It's actually very similar to Tiffany's for Men now that I'm thinking about it. But I think I prefer this back when they could use oak moss in the base and stuff like that, make it a little heavier. This is not a bad fragrance by any stretch of the imagination. There's even myrrh in the base, so it's not as light and you know, feathery and just, you know, it's not like an eau de cologne where you spray it and, well, it actually is an eau de cologne concentration, but it doesn't act like an eau de cologne where it lasts 30 minutes. This lasts like a normal fragrance, 6-7 hours. And in the heat, it is a good one to wear if you want to be professional, go to an office. There's a gaiac note in the base. There's a little greenness, and then there's this freshness from bergamot and ginger and cardamoms. It's a little bit spicy, so, you know, I like this. This is not my favorite type of fragrance, though. And I have so many of these for someone that says it's not my favorite type of fragrance. I have Pour Monsieur, I have Scandal, I have this, I have Tiffany's. So I have my citrus fragrances are covered, and another one coming up here in a little bit. Okay, next house that LVMH owns is the House of Loewe. Now, Loewe is a Spanish house, if I'm not mistaken. And my favorite fragrance from them, hands down, I have two, but my favorite fragrance from them is a fragrance called Esencia. I don't know if you can see that very well. So this is the Eau de Toilette. There's also an Eau de Parfum, which I've never smelled, but this has this leather bit on the top with their brand stamped in. And this is back when Loewe made its own perfumes, Perfume Loewe SA, before LVMH bought them. So this is a vintage bottle. They've now reformulated it, and it looks like the next bottle I'm going to show you is like their version of the Listerine bottle that Guerlain uses. Oh, don't do that, Derby. You stay right there, buddy. And so, anyways, long story short is this is a beautiful fougere. It's an aromatic fougere. It's a mythical, long-lost, you know, unicorn that people that hunt vintage masculines look for. Some people compare it to polo green. I don't get the polo green comparison per se, other than there's pine in here. This is more a fougere, whereas polo green is more a chiffre. And so they both have their place. You know, I would probably wear this more in the warmer weather, polo green more in the cooler weather, but both fragrances are year-round to me. But this is such a complex fragrance, too. It came out in 1988, and it's got lavender, juniper, tarragon, galbanum, bergamot, lemon, artemisia, petitgrain, pine tree needles, basil, clary sage, nutmeg, geranium, neroli, rose, blackcurrant, jasmine, lily of the valley, fir, oak moss, leather, vetiver, cedar, styrax, patchouli, sandalwood, amber, musk, and tonka bean. So I just wanted to read that to you to give you an example of how they used to make these vintage masculine fragrances. It's so good. This is my kind of fragrance for sure. I love these old school masculines, so I don't know if the reformulation has kept what this is, but if someone can tell me, I'd love to know. And then we're going to move on to their modern fragrance that I have. It's called Loewe 001 Man. And I have no clue how you say that, whether it's 001 Man, 001 Man. I don't really understand the name. All I know is that this is basically Loewe's take on Dior Homme. It's in that kind of vein, even though there is no iris. There's ambrette, musk mallow, and there's this carrot seed note, which carrot seed can sometimes come across as powdery, and it can almost feel like there's iris in here. So this feels like it's a very iris-heavy fragrance, even though it's not. So if you're somebody who likes modern fragrances, but you want to try something different, you don't want to be the same as everyone else, check out Loewe 001 Man. So this is this Loewe bottle I was telling you about that Esencia now comes in. It basically comes in a bottle that looks like this. So this bottle is no more. Interesting house. I don't know if I would dive much deeper into them, because I think LVMH is kind of running them the same way that they're running Guerlain and Dior and all that stuff. But the vintage stuff, and I'm kind of glad to have this modern thing just to have it. And then we're going to move on to the house of Givenchy, which LVMH has owned forever, I believe. And this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. If I did a top 10 list of all-time great fragrances, this would be on there, hands down. It is the original Givenchy Gentleman from 1974. So again, I know it's not fair to put a fragrance like this on there that you can't go get right now. This is heavily reformulated, but if you can find the label with the silver around it like this, whether it's a spray or a splash, doesn't matter. Get the cheapest one you can, decant it, into an atomizer, and just spray if you like to spray. But this is one of the best patchouli animalic fragrances. It's this animalic patchouli with honey. Oh, it's so good. I can smell it through the side of the cap without even twisting it off. It's unbelievable longevity. And then we go from 1974 to the 1990s. This is a modern masculine floral fragrance, which is fresh. Again, not my thing, but I'm glad to have it. It's a discontinued gem that a lot of people hunt for. I don't think it's worth the big money. But I'll get to that. I'll maybe do a comparison with another fragrance, Nino Cerruti, from the late 70s, I believe. That fragrance came out some other time. But this is Givenchy's Insense, or Insense, or Insense. But this came out in 1993. It's a fresh aromatic fragrance is basically what it is. It feels like it's this fruity, aldehydic, citrus fragrance in the top that dries down to this. There's a fir note in here, magnolia, lily of the valley, but then there's this marine feel to it. So even though it's fresh, and even though there's no marine notes listed, it feels like there's a little bit of a marine fragrance. It feels like one that's coming up pretty soon, actually, from another house. So if you like fresh fragrances, if you don't like the heavy stuff that I like, if you don't like the Givenchy Gentlemans from 1974, the Coros, the Antaeus, check this out if you're into maybe trying something different. Prices are going through the roof. This is a 50 ml bottle. They make 50 and 100 mLs, but they also did a flanker called Fresh or something. It's blue. The juice is blue. Okay, next is another Givenchy. This is a Aromatic Fujia, and actually one of the better Aromatic Fugias out there. It's called Zarius, and this is again a vintage bottle. It now looks, I think it's clear with like a sticker on the front or something, but this came out in 1986. Great year for perfumery. And this is another one that's chocked full of notes, just like Esencia. Aromatic Fujia, chocked full of notes. It's not as green as Esencia. It does have this interesting cypress note. I love cypress in old school masculines. So Zarius is definitely one to check out if you like the old school feel. There was also a flanker that was done by Annick Minardo called Zarius Rouge. And this is an interesting fragrance because it has some of the most unusual notes you will ever find. There is a note of cactus in here. Yes, cactus. There's also a note of pimento. And then there's tarragon. There's Chinese orange. I don't know what the hell that is. African geranium. So you got Chinese orange, African geranium, cactus, sandalwood, musk, but it's made by Anique Minardo, so you know it's good. I'm gonna start a new series soon, maybe tomorrow, called Perfumer's Portfolio. I'm gonna call it, or something like that. I'll make it good. And I'm gonna highlight the fragrances of one perfumer, and I might start with Anique Minardo because she is such a revelation. But she created Zarius Rouge, among many others that I will put in a video highlighting her. But again, it's fresh. It smells like the 90s. You know, Zarius, the original, smells like the 80s. This came out in 1995, and it smells like it. I mean, it's fresh. Women love this stuff because they just love a fresh-smelling man, and this definitely gets you there. But it's unique enough. You know, when you first smell it, you're going to go, what the hell am I smelling? Cactus note? But it grows on you. And then, probably the most modern Givenchy I have is a fragrance called Givenchy Purom. And this came out in 2002. And it was created by Alberto Morias and Elias Hermendez. I don't know who he is. But this is probably the most boring of the bunch to me, just because it's this, you know, woody, fresh, there's vetiver, there's lavender, but it's really all about this woody base. It's not a bad fragrance. It's just, you know, it's not very interesting. It's if you just wanted like something to kind of smell good, like an everyday driver kind of thing, and you don't want to be challenged, absolutely nothing wrong with this fragrance. I picked this up because this was before LVMH bought Givenchy. Or, you know, it was the older formulation, so I wanted to grab it before it was gone. Not that I think it makes a difference with a fragrance like this, but that's just my mindset. Next, we're going to go to the house of Kenzo, and this is one of my favorite spicy fragrances, and there's an interesting mate tea note, I believe, in here. This is Kenzo Jungle Pour Homme with the zebra brush head. And this fragrance is amazing. I also have this is the vintage before there was any sort of reformulation. The cumin, I feel like, is a little bit amped up in this, but for a designer fragrance, this is pretty intense, because the cumin note makes it a little challenging when you first spray, but I love it. You do get a little bit of a cola vibe. So if you, yeah, I mean, this is good stuff. This is gonna warrant a full review. And if you like, you know, spicy fragrances, this is definitely one to check out. This is like one of the granddaddies of modern spicy fragrances. Came out in 1998, and it was released by Olivier Cresp, one of his greatest works, in my opinion. And then we're gonna go back in time to 1992, I believe. 1991, Kenzo Pour Homme. And it comes in this bamboo-looking bottle. Again, this is only a little 30 ml, so it doesn't have all the details that most of the older bottles have. But this is back when Kenzo Parfums was the distributor. And you can see someone scratched the batch code out on the bottom. But either way, this is very similar to Insense for me. These two are kind of like two peas in a pod. They're fresh. They both came out around the same time. This does have C notes listed, even though it doesn't feel very aquatic. There is C notes in here. There's none listed here, but they both feel that way. But then there's a lot of heavy masculine notes underneath, which is the only reason I have this. There's pine, there's fir balsams, there's juniper, there's carnation, oak moss, lily of the valley, caraway, vetiver, sage, mahogany. there's a lot going on underneath the C notes, which makes it unique. So Kenzo Pour Homme. And then we're going to move on to the house of Marc Jacobs, which this is the only fragrance from this house that I have, and it's discontinued, of course, and it's called Bang. So this is Marc Jacobs Bang. It looks like someone went bang onto the bottle and crushed it. But basically, this is one of the best spicy pepper fragrances. If you like a peppery fragrance, this and Amouage's Honor Man are two I would highly recommend. They're probably the best pepper-heavy fragrances I've ever gotten my nose on. Not this modern pink pepper stuff, but real, pepper, which most people are not willing to pay big money for a pepper fragrance. The note of pepper doesn't necessarily get people to pull their wallet out, in my opinion. But this is a very well done fragrance, and it's discontinued. It has a flanker, which sucks, called Bang Bang. Don't get that one. This was created by Anne Gottlieb and Jan Vasnier, who also did Moschino's Toy Boy, I believe, and did a fantastic job. So impressed with his work. Yeah, this is one of the best pepper fragrances. And then we're going to move on to the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian, which I do not have any full bottles of, but I do have a couple decants. And let me show you the one that everyone knows first. This is Grand Soir. So these are 3 10 mLs that I got. I won't even open it. There's no point. But everyone calls this, one of the best amber fragrances. No. Not to me, anyways. I mean, it's good. There is amber, there's vanilla, there's benzoin, there's labdanum, there's tonka. It's not very exciting to me. I actually like a fragrance that he put out better as an amber fragrance. It's called Ciel de Gum. So apparently gum is a department store in Russia, if I'm getting that correct. And this fragrance, which I have a 12 ml decant, it's so good. It's a little bit feminine leaning for these guys that don't want to wear feminine fragrances, but as far as, MFK does ambers very good. In fact, he did a fragrance for Jean-Paul Gaultier called Gaultier 2, like squared. And it came with 2, I think, bottles crunched together. I have one of those bottles. And it's an amber. And it's a very good designer amber. And this is almost like a niche version of that, to my opinion. This is one of the things MFK does good. He does good amber. The florals are amped up here. And there's some more cinnamon and stuff like that. But this is probably my favorite amber that he has done. So, Ciel de Gum. If you can find it, I think it might be discontinued. Along with the one fragrance from him I'm still looking for, which is Absolute Pour Le Soir. I can't find that anywhere. That has been a nightmare to track down. Okay, now we're going to move on to the house of Dior. And this is Diorella, one of the best Chiffre fragrances that I did not include in my Chiffre list. This is a floral chiffre, also green, you could say. Edmund Rudnitska is the perfumer, one of the best perfumers of all time. My favorite from him is Eau de Hermes. And then we're going to do Poison from the mid-80s. And this is the Esprit De Parfum. Beautiful tuberose, maybe one of the best. It's ambery. It's got this animalic honey, which I love. It has this almost like blended fruit accord, which is just lovely. It smells like raspberries and blueberries and plums, anise. There's anise in the top. There's this Apopanax, myrrh, cloves, incense. It has that clove incense feel like you get in opium, but there's this amped up honey and tuberose. It's so good. It's the smell of the 80s, basically. This is Esprit de Parfum. Again, Dior basically did the same thing that Guerlain did, where I said they called Shalimar Parfum de Toilette. They called their Extrait de Parfum Esprit de Parfum in the old days. So if you ever find a bottle and it says Esprit de Parfum, you know it's a vintage. because they stopped saying that long time ago. So this is from Enchante. Thank you very much. Anuj, Enchante Perfumes. He gets a shout out, as he should. And then one of my favorite masculine leathers. This is Dior Jules. Jules. Put out by the famous Jean Martel, who also did Paco Rabanne Pour Homme. And anyone that does Paco Rabanne Pour Homme is A-OK by me. So this is a great leather fragrance, so masculine. Came out in the early 80s. Oh God, I love this fragrance so much. If you can find this vintage bottle, get it. But Dior did something brave. They re-released it in 2016. So if you can find them, even the re-release, it's a very limited re-release, but I hear that the reformulation was very good. And then one of Dior's fresh fragrances, this is Dior Higher. One of my least favorite Dior's, but it's still a Dior, and I got this for a pretty good price. This is a 50 ml, back when they still used to use the term Christian Dior. Now it just says Dior, not Parfums, Christian Dior. But Higher came out in 2001. Olivier Guillotin and Olivier Pechot are the two perfumers. And this has an interesting pear and cypress combo, which is very nice in the heat, in this real nice white musk, which was popular in the early 2000s. If you like freshies, that's a good one. And then one of Demachy's better Privé fragrances, in my opinion. This is Santal Noir. This is a little decant I got, a 30 ml decant I bought off of somebody. Beautiful sandalwood and rose. If I ever do a top rose fragrances, this would be there. This could also be there for top sandalwood fragrances. Very good. Made for the Arabic market, I believe, but you know, readily available, I think, if you look around. And then we're going to move on to my only blue fragrance. If you've watched my other videos, if you've watched especially my Christian Dior video, you know, I've shown this off before. This is Dior Sauvage Parfum. And they use a very interesting combo of Elemi in the top with Olibanum in the base. So the reason that I chose this as my only blue fragrance, I don't own any of the Sauvages. I don't own any other Dylan Blues. I don't own Bleu de Chanel, which I can't stand. I don't own Roja's Elysium, because you really only need one blue fragrance. Rich Mitch has said it before. He's exactly right. You only need one. Pick which one you like. They all do the same thing. For me, the Olibanum in this sets it apart. And the fact that it's a parfum, you know, it doesn't just reach out and touch everybody 100 yards away like the EDT does. So I like that. I like that about the parfum. And then one of the greatest masculine fragrances ever released. This is a vintage bottle. This is Dior's Fahrenheit. Beautiful leather with this violet leaf accord in the top. Oh my God, it's so good. If you can find an older bottle that still had a 5-digit batch code on the bottom, I think that 6 means it's a 1996 bottle, but I could be mistaken. Do it. The dirtiness in the top, if you like that petroleum vibe, so good. One of the best masculine fragrances ever, and one of the best bottles ever. Very unique with the, you know, transition. The bigger bottles, it's a little easier to see. Dark to light transition. Everything about it. Such a hit. Then they put out a flanker called Dior Fahrenheit Les Parfums. And this is a little bit expensive. It's also a little bit sweeter and more generic. That violet leaf note that gives off the petroleum vibe in the top when you first spray, it gives off that gasoline vibe, is way toned down in the Les Parfums. The sweetness is toned up. There's a note of rum. that they've added in here. So if you want like more of a mass, if some made for the masses Fahrenheit, let's say, that's also more unisex. Francois Demachy added vanilla to this. I just don't think there's any place in Fahrenheit for vanilla, personally. I think they kind of, you know, they turned it into something that it's not. This has nothing to do with Fahrenheit, in my opinion. Nice fragrance, but it's not Fahrenheit. And then probably his best flanker of Fahrenheit, definitely his best flanker of Fahrenheit, is the Absolute, which is basically the oud version of Fahrenheit. You can see right there, this was a tester, so it's got the notes on the back. Myrrh essence, incense, and oud with that Fahrenheit DNA. It's so good, and these are going for crazy money now. This is 100 ml. Very glad to have it. I will cherish this. Yeah, this is my favorite flanker of Fahrenheit. The original is still my favorite, but if you want something a little bit more modern, somebody, I think it was Robes 08, Marc, said that this is the devil's juice. So I kind of see that. Then the perfume that perfumers tend to wear, I don't like this fragrance. I struggle with it, even though it's a classic. I know it's just not my thing. It's Eau Sauvage EDT from 1966. This came out by Edmond Rudnitska. Again, I prefer his Eau de Hermès, which came out 15 years earlier. But this has the note of... This has a Hedione note, apparently. Steve McQueen wore this or something and claimed that that's how he got all the chicks. I don't know. It's not my thing. And then the one that I do like much more is Eau Sauvage Parfum. This came out in 2012. This is one of Demachy's much better works, up there with the Fahrenheit Absolute. He does a good job taking fragrances and creating flankers, riffing off of the formula, if you will. And he did that here. There's a beautiful note of myrrh. Apparently, they reformulated this in 2017, and they used the note of elemi instead of myrrh. The myrrh was taken out of the fragrance, and they did a reformulation. I still prefer the original. It's not as loud as the reformulation version, apparently. I've never done a side-by-side comparison, but I don't know how they could improve on this. I mean, for what it is, the vetiver in this makes it so masculine and professional. Yeah, it's so good. So good. I still don't know why these two give me vibes of each other. One of the things that just hits my nose that I never hear anyone else talk about, so it's probably just me being crazy, but somehow they do. And then we're going to go on to another Dior Freshie, which is a little bit better than Higher, in my opinion, and it's Dune Pour Homme. And you can see this is back during their Christian Dior days. And Dune was released in 1997. It was released by Olivier Cresp. And what sets this one apart is it has a beautiful fig wood bark note with this sandalwood base, which is really beautiful. So the fig wood bark, the fig, the cassis note in the top. Really interesting stuff. And very glad to have an older bottle. Very happy to have this. Definitely will cherish this for the summer days. And then onto the Dior Homme line. This is Dior Homme Intense, the 2011 version. This is a 2014 bottle. 2014 bottle. So I am happy to have this. Apparently it has been reformulated, but it's a good reformulation. One of the best designer irises of all time. And then, of course, another one of Demachy's great flankers, Dior Homme Parfum. This is the Parfum, which all of a sudden caught fire with the bros in the fragrance community. Oh, God, so good. Like I said, this amps up the leather note from the Intense version. So the leather is amped up. It also is a little bit more animalic because they've added the note of ambrette and oud. But for cold days, I mean, you can't get much better than this. But my personal favorite out of the bunch, and one of my favorite iris fragrances of all time, if you know, you know what's coming. It is the original Dior Homme from 2005, silver stem with the actual writing Dior on the silver stem there. I don't know if you can see that, but this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. And of course, the original was not created by Francois Demachy. It was created by Olivier Polge, Chanel's in-house perfumer. This feels like a Chanel to me. This wears like a Chanel. The quality feels like a Chanel. The attention to detail feels like a Chanel. Rich Mitch said this feels like it was painted in you know, little strokes where you can really see the detail, whereas this is big, broad strokes. And I totally get what he's saying there. And this is the masterpiece to me. Of all three, the Parfum is amazing to wear. Makes you feel like you're a badass. The Intense is also awesome. But as far as perfumery, technique, and composition, and creativity, this came out in 2005. Nothing was on the market like this back then. So bravo, Olivier Polge. And so glad to have this version in my collection. I will cherish this. I love wearing this fragrance. Oh, it's so good. The cacao, everything. Okay, last two. I had to put them on the floor because I ran out of room. The first is another Tonka bean fragrance that I struggle with. It's Fève Delicious. I don't know why I bought this. It's just not my thing, you know. It's I'd probably prefer to have that on my, have my wife wear that or something. Then another one of Francois Demachy's, last one, and then we'll cut it here. This is my longest video, but you can see why LVMH is just a beast. Leather Oud. Unfortunately, it's not the original. It is the reformulated version. You can tell by the cap, but I still enjoy this. I'm glad to have it. I wish I had an original, but there you go. So I'm not going to let this go on any longer. This is the final conglomerate video I'm going to do. We did Estee Lauder. We did L'Oreal. This knocks out LVMH. I wanted to show it all to you guys in one spot. When you're buying these, be cognizant. Your money is going to LVMH. It's not going to Loewe. It's not going to Guerlain. It's not going to Dior. Buy the vintage if you can. If you hunt down the vintage and buy that off of an individual seller, at least you're not giving your money to these big conglomerates, because I don't support what they've done to the art of perfumery. So that's my video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please leave comments. I love hearing from you guys. I love seeing your faces in the comments. And I will probably be back pretty soon with another video. Thanks. Cheers.